name is Jen and this is Because of Plants, where I talk about all things houseplant and home design. Welcome back. Alright, I have for you another episode of my series, The Houseplant Alphabet. This is a series where I introduce you to my houseplants, talk about my experience growing them, and what conditions they are currently receiving in my home. This is definitely not a definitive care guide, for sure, more so today than other days, and I'm definitely not a plant expert. You'll be able to tell soon, because this is a plant that is not living because of me. It is living in spite of me. Alright, today we will be talking about the watermelon peperomia. You have heard about my dislike of this plant, and it's not because of the plant itself, it's because I cannot keep this plant alive. So this section is currently in LECA. It's probably the one that's doing the best in LECA, or the one that's doing the best. I do have several different pots of it, most of them from propagations. It's not doing very well. It's kind of droopy. It loses leaves very quickly. I've lost a lot of this plant to stem rot, even in LECA. So I don't know. It's a difficult plant for me. I don't really know how to keep this one happy. I do have quite a bad streak with Peperomia caparatas as well, so maybe it's like a peperomia thing. The one peperomia I can keep alive is the Peperomia obtusifolia, and that's because that plant is more like the rubber plant than a peperomia. Okay, so this is another section of this peperomia I have. This one's in soil, and this is from propagations. This one's doing okay as well. Not fantastic, but it's doing okay. Alright, so let's start with the positives of this plant first. This plant is incredibly easy to propagate. I've been able to give away so many cuttings and sections and pots of this plant just like locally because it is very, very easy to propagate. So you can propagate in multiple ways. This is kind of like two different ways that I've propagated. So this one, you can just cut a stem off. So, you know, like this, let me put this down. So this being the leaf, you could take a cutting anywhere along the stem and just put it in some water. That's what I did with this one. You do have to kind of be vigilant about checking your water and replacing your water though, because I did lose quite a few. This used to be a much fuller pot, and I did lose a few to stem rot, so you do have to be kind of vigilant about changing out the water, making sure that nothing's rotting, because as soon as it rots, it spreads like crazy. And then as soon as there were, you know, a significant amount of roots, I potted it up. And so I've had someone ask me what to do when your plant starts to grow baby leaves, because if you see the slide, it starts to grow baby leaves like this where the root is, which isn't always necessarily where the top of the soil line is, or the top of the medium line is, and I just bury it, and eventually the plant will keep putting out more leaves, and eventually it will find its way up, and it'll be okay. Even in soil, that's what I do. It's totally fine. If it's starting to grow, you know, baby leaves, that's definitely your indication that you should put that thing in a medium ASAP. So these have come out after I potted it. When I potted it, there weren't any baby leaves or anything. These came out after I potted it. I think they're trying to find their way up above the medium line. Right now, this is kind of a tall cup, so I think that's why it's kind of struggling a little bit. But maybe this is just what happens in soil and we just don't know. I don't know. Okay, so that's a good thing. Another way to propagate is, that's what I did with this one, is via a leaf cutting. So what you do is, so this is the leaf, right? So you would cut straight across like this, and then you want to make sure that your cut line is facing down into the soil, both pieces, and you want to make sure that they're pretty in there. I water whenever the soil looks dry, and I kind of just forget about it and leave it alone. You do want to make sure that the soil line is pretty deep down into the soil though. I'm sorry, to make sure that the leaf is pretty deep down into the soil though, because I've, you know, definitely had, once the soil dries out a little bit, sometimes the leaf just kind of falls over. And where this veining is, see the veining? So there's a vein right here, there's a vein right here, there's a vein right here. That's where on the cut line, that's where the roots grow out of. And after it roots itself into the soil, it'll start to put out baby leaves like that. Okay, so I think that for lighting, so this section is currently under the Santa grow bulb. I think it's doing good. The other section is currently in an east-facing window. I think it's also doing okay. I think this is a plant that kind of falls into that general category of like liking bright indirect lighting. I would definitely not categorize this plant as a low light plant, and I would also not put it underneath direct lighting. So really like a bright indirect light kind of plant. So for me, my biggest struggle with this plant is watering. So I've lost a lot of sections to stem rot, but also I also will lose a lot of leaves due to underwatering, trying to fix my stem rot issue. So I'm not a good indicator. I'm not a really great person of like telling you when to water this plant. For me personally, I'm trying to err more on the side of caution and water a little bit less, because I've lost so many peperomias to stem rot. The leca has helped. The leca definitely has helped. This definitely is the one that's doing the best out of all of my different, cuttings, pots, whatever. Don't think it's doing that great though. This plant, when I had like a much bigger pot of this plant, which I've since given away, it always looked droopy and like, I don't know, so I can't tell you. I think this is a plant that would appreciate more humidity. So the one that's near the east facing window, that one is close to a humidifier, so it gets around 70% humidity. This one is just an ambient room humidity, so it gets around 50%. I don't think it's a big necessity necessarily. Like, I think it can survive without the higher humidity, but I do think that it welcomes a little bit of a higher humidity just fine. You have a variegated Peperomia caparata. I have noticed that those really like higher humidity levels, so that's something to keep in mind, although not a complete necessity. I really wish that this was like an easier plant. I've heard that a lot of people also struggle with this plant, and that's such a shame because the variegation pattern is so fun. I love it so much. Watermelons are one of my favorite fruits, so I really wish that this was easier to take care of. So yeah, if you have any care tips for me, leave them down in the comments down below. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!